Okay, here we go again. Not much going on this afternoon, so I figured we'd do another little live broadcast. Going to keep this one a little shorter if possible, and again going to walk through one of my old songs. This one's from quite a while ago, and it's a bit different to all the other things that you will hear on my channel. So this is a kind of poppy dance thing. It's a bit of a throwback to when we were doing the Riffs and Rays productions. But the reason I want to run through this is, first of all, because I want to bring it back, getting it ready for putting it out. Slightly more up-to-date version, and also there's some really nice backing vocals. That's the main thing really in this one. Some really nice backing vocals that I would like everybody to hear. So I'm just going to play through the track while we hopefully get the stream up and running and notifications done and all that. So the song's called Love Came. Here it comes. But you know I love you. You're in my mind each passing day until you come back to me. Can't you see? You and me got to be together always. Love came, life changed. Now I'm not the lonely one. Love came, never the same. You know you're the only one. Can't you see? Love came, life changed. Now I'm not the lonely one. Love came, never the same. You know you're the only one. Love came, life changed. Now I'm not the lonely one. Love came, never the same. You know you're the only one. Got to be. Love came, life changed. Now I'm not the lonely one. Love came, never the same. You know you're the only one. Okay, so there's the song, Love Came, and let's have a quick look through it. First of all, I'm just going to bring up the mixer here and turn off all my little bits of enhancements. That was just to make things a little bit nicer to listen to. Oh, we could leave it on, I suppose. This is not a super glamorous. Okay, so yeah, this track was done quite a while ago. It was done in a bit of a hurry, as you probably see, with some of the levels and so on and so forth. But there's quite a lot going on. It really could do with tidying up. I have tidied it up a little bit just before we started, with a couple of things to the vocals, which we'll get to in a minute. But first of all, anyway, let's just go through the basics of the track and how it was built up. So let's close off these vocals and all the other things that are going to distract us a little bit. There's the old melody. So what actually started this was, as often is the case, sure any of you guys will know, it's one of those little 8-bar experiments again. And this was actually Omnisphere, and it was this little riff, obviously. So let's have a quick look at that, if I can get it to come up. Okay, yeah, so obviously I'm a big fan of Omnisphere. Massive fan, and you can just about do anything with this, but this was basically one of the presets. Now the thing with that particular sound is it's got an element of randomness to it, which I never actually looked at, because that's one of those where once you get going, you just get going and you don't think too carefully about what you're doing. You just want to make the music, don't you? So it's odd, because sometimes when you export this, you'll get, if you listen, let's have another listen. So sometimes when you played it back, there was these little harmonics that would emphasize the dee 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 dee, and sometimes they don't come out. See, that one was more dee-dee, but what I like was the dee-dee-dee-dee, and that, you know. So anyway, either way, sometimes it comes out how I want it, sometimes it doesn't. There's probably a way to figure that out and make it happen exactly how I want it every time, but I never got around to it because I was in such a hurry to just, oh, that sounds nice, we'll have to build something around that. So of course, we have the intro, which has got nothing else in it except that. And then this little intro part here is actually just a loop, a sample, part of a sample loop. Let's have a quick look. Yeah. And it was actually a full loop, which I believe, I don't know if this is it. No. I don't know where that is, maybe down here somewhere in the old section. Yeah, that could be it there, I think. Let's have a quick listen. I just have to remember to turn this back off. We're not going to go in super fine detail of all this, but I just thought the little intro bit would be interesting to listen to. Yeah, so I basically had that. It's funny, isn't it, how things change and evolve. That's actually sounded quite neat. It was a bit like the old remix thing, you know, and we did a lot of remixes throughout the 2000s, as some of you who know me probably know. So yeah, so this is where, obviously, okay, I'll keep that little bit because of the kick intro. I quite liked it, but then the next thing, of course, was just to build up the standard kind of drums to go with it. So there's the drums. Let's see, they're all, it's back to the classic dancey style. There's no clever programming here more than just adding some nice sounds, probably sounds that we were using throughout the Riffs and Rays days. And of course, along with the drum stuff comes percussion. And in this case, using battery 3, obviously this is an old track, so battery 4 obviously now available. And as you probably know, I'm a massive fan of Toontrack, Superior Drummer, and all their products. But for the dance music, I've found that yeah, my little collection of kicks and snares for battery. So that's basically it. So, okay, let's say there's not really much more detail to go into in that. It's all pretty obvious. It speaks for itself. Stylus RMX, still a staple for grooves, and especially like it for things like congas and tambourines and shakers, because the little built-in patterns, you can fiddle around with them, and it's just simple and straightforward. Drag the MIDI part that you've ended up with over onto the project, and off you go. And there's a little percussion loop along with that as well. So we'll put all that together along with a couple of effects and reverse cymbals and so on. And it's funny, you can still hear the tones from that actual intro riff coming out slightly differently. Sometimes sometimes you know, they're just not always consistent, which is actually quite fun. So, okay, next thing was bassline, and again, this was based around the kind of thing we were doing at the time, which was always very popular. It's an omnisphere bass, very straightforward. There isn't even a lot of processing on this, if I remember rightly. I think it's pretty much just as it happens, a little bit of EQ. Here's a bass line, and my thing at the time with these was I used to just play, try and get something groovy until I came up with something that made us all kind of nod our heads, and this was a similar style thing, slightly offbeat. As you can see, find the actual track, the actual bass, there it is. Actually, that's really weird. There's no processing going on at all on there, which is apart from EQ. And normally I would definitely have a little bit of compression or something going on the bass, which is quite weird. Again, must have been in, you know, that much of a hurry to get it all down. When you've got a little bit of an idea, that does happen, and it's nice when that happens. So that's the bass line, and actually the bass line ended up being part of the chorus, part of the verse melody as well. Let's just move on to the link here, what the bass does in the link. Yeah, very straightforward there actually, and then chorus. Which is of course identical to the verses. So again, and then remember the thing with this was, yeah, I liked that, what I had so far. I was like, oh, this is nice, you know. And what really set me off with this was when I added the two little synths to play along with that riff when it came in. Again, I should have probably marked out some groups to mute things, but these. And as you can hear with those, because I can choose the inversions there and the way that things have, you know, things are ordered in the notes so that, you know, I'm not getting that randomness that I was from the other one. And then finally it was, okay, once that's happened, we need to break it down. So I'm not having those going throughout a verse, but let's have something else playing along with the Omnisphere riff. And of course, it's a nice little bit of Lounge Lizard. So you get that contrast between the, you know, the big powerful kind of synths, and then the Lounge Lizard taking over when the verse starts. So here we are. All nice sounds. And finally, on the kind of basic instrumentation, there's a high string which has got a pumping thing on it. Let's have a... So where is the high string? I believe that's it there. You want to have a quick listen to how that's done, just in case it's in. So that's going over to this pumpy verb, which is another thing we'll get to in a minute. And basically FabFilter Pro G, which is how I used to do this in those days, and that's set for a ducking. It's got a ducking setting which you can trigger with MIDI notes. So that's without. And that, as you can see, is taking a MIDI note to trigger it. And I'm not actually sure where the MIDI notes are. I guess these are, yeah, those are the MIDI notes there underneath. So there's places where it's nice because you can stop the sidechain effect with MIDI notes, so you can stop it whenever you want. So you can see those notes are playing, and then when it gets to the little signature bit at the end, there's no pumping going on. So here it is with. See, and even for that bit there, the pumper, as we call it, is muted. So that's that. There's also some more pumping stuff that goes on in a while, which is something I used to do a lot with the pop vocals on the dance remixes and stuff. So we'll get to that. And like I said, the main reason really I'm rushing through this is because I want to get to the vocals. Excuse me, not necessarily the lead vocals, but the backing vocal parts. And there we go with the water, better. Okay, so we've got the middle 8 part, which the drums here break down to, I think there's no hi-hats or anything. The loop drops out. Pretty much everything drops out for the little middle 8, or not middle 8, the link into the chorus. But what I did do is this big kind of stabby synth part, which I really like. And there's an extra bit of bass there. Again, Omnisphere. Basically that's a copy of the actual bass, but it just gives that wideness. It's a lovely sound. And then the little stab there that does just that one thing, and that's all it does throughout the entire track. And again, I think that is also Omnisphere. on channel 8, it looks like. So it'll be, yeah, pizzicato, and presumably the effects there, yeah. The effects all come from within Omnisphere itself. That's a bit of a trick I sort of picked up from one of my favourite groups. I learned a lot from Scritti Politti. The album Cupid and Psyche and Provision, both of those, there were marvels of production, the stuff that those guys did. So yeah, so there you've got the middle kind of 8, or the link, should I say. I keep calling it middle 8, and it's not actually a middle 8, it's the link. The link into the chorus. So let's just hear that without any of the vocals. I almost forgot, of course, there's the obligatory guitar being my main instrument. So I was trying to put a little bit in. Here we go, this is the guitars. Now that little riff there, that's been done a million times. And the other thing is just playing the actual chords from the song, filtered out in various places. So for instance, and you'll hear this build up. Yeah, the Moog filter from UID, or the Moog, if you want to be more accurate, I guess. Always love the sound of that filter, although there's many now that do this job. But don't forget, this track is probably 10 years old now. And it's automated, you can see the read and write there. So that's it really, that's the guitars, all the rhythm section, and here it is. Let's just hear a little bit of that. Yeah, and to me that was sounding really good. I think I got pretty much as far as that before I'd even started with lyrics and melody. So let's have a look at, let's see, I'm going to leave everything open there and we'll have a look at the vocals. So the little delay part on the intro, that was just a chop that came from one of the later bits. And when you're actually hearing the whole track, it's not that obvious what that is, but it just added something. And I believe it was Jason Havenhand, who was part of the Riffs and Rays crew, that heard this and said, "Oh, I like that bit." But we'll get to that in a minute. So as you can tell, it's So the lead vocal line, well, again, it was one of those, right, I've got this really nice sort of melodic, catchy bass line, so I'm going to do something to go with that. Quickly put some words down, quickly put the lyric melody down and sung it, and was never particularly happy with, as we always say, with the lead vocal. Probably could have done with a proper singer, which is why we eventually got Soraya to come in and do this. And the problem there was, of course, that Soraya, not a problem as such, but because the song was written for me, and it was in a nice key for me to sing, and it doesn't necessarily, and this is a problem as songwriters we come across a lot. You will write a song and somebody else will want to do it, and the key just doesn't quite work for them. And it doesn't mean anything bad about them whatsoever, but there's certain notes, you know, and what Jason and I always used to say is try and keep people in their kind of sweet spot. Now for me, I know I can reach a top B, for instance, if I really have to scream, I can do that. But the area that sounds nice, or nice, let's say not suddenly nice, but best to me in my voice is around the kind of let's say up until A, top A, and from E upwards, or maybe a little bit lower than that. And of course, for a girl who's singing, who's got an inherently much higher range than that, trying to do the same melody line that I did doesn't always work, and it doesn't necessarily do their voice justice. So, excuse me, another drink of water. So, that's the explanation for why I'm playing you my version right now. Although the one good thing that did come out of Soraya part when she came to do this was that she also did the backing vocal group, which we'll get to in a minute. So let's just hear a bit of the melody of the verse and have a look at the processing.
Back at times we had, I can see you smiling. You always made it good from bad, and I miss you. Now you're 1,000 miles from here. Oh, it's such a long way.
So you can probably hear there, I've got this, what I call my pump verb over here. Now this is done differently to the string part that I was showing you earlier on. This is done very simply. It's a big, massive reverb that goes on forever. Have a listen.
I can see you smiling. You always made it good.
And of course there is some actual delay there as well. De-esser from Essence. That's
good from bad, and I miss you.
And probably could do with a little bit more of that, but anyway. But the key here was this is Waves, one knob pumper. This plugin basically solves all the problems of side chaining with kicks and all the MIDI things that we used to have to do, as long as you want it to be consistent. And even if you don't, you can always automate the knob to just disappear, or you know, so like I was showing you earlier with the MIDI notes, you know, you could automate this to be less pumping, and basically so what you end up with is a pumping reverb.
When I look back at times we had, I can see you smiling. You always made it good.
And I always thought that was a great effect. I remember again doing that in the Riffs and Rays days with some really nice vocals from people who were, you know, much better singers than I am. So yeah, that's I was all right. You know, I was thinking, okay, well that's okay. I've got a nice melody now. We get to the link part, and of course, it's a single vocal. But when we get to the link part, I go to the double.
Until you come back to me, can't you see? You and me got to be together always.
So there you have it. Again, it's all about build up. As I was saying in one of the other videos, try to keep things, you know, rein it in a little bit throughout the verses maybe. Have a little bit of a change in the link into the chorus if you do have one, and then go in all guns blazing with the chorus. It's a standard thing, and this song really is a standard arrangement altogether. We've got an intro which is basically the chorus. We've got a double length verse, small link and a single chorus, then we've got a short verse, link into the double chorus, and so on. And the only other thing before we get to the, you know, the part that I was kind of itching to get to, I probably should have just cut it all out, all this, but anyway, it's the little solo again. And what happens, You'll know this if you write your own music. Sometimes you get lazy, and what happened here was, I need a middle 8. Well, I've got most of the song done now. I don't want to write a new part, so let's just break down and put a solo in. So that's what I did. And again, lovely sound. That's coming once again from Omnisphere, in case anyone's interested. The sound, I think it's this one here. Yeah, oh, okay, so it's my own lead sound, but there's the settings. I don't know, how do we do that now? I forgot. Oh, there we are. Yeah, there's the settings. It's just a basic, saw wave with a little bit of phasing and cut off, and I think that sounds really, really nice in the track. I've got to be honest. So yeah, that's the solo. Nice. Pretty much played straight in. It's a melodic little thing, something that I can do quite well. I guess from the guitar thing as well. One of my favourite things is to play melodically, not over the top, simple, and something that's a little bit maybe different from the actual melody that you'd usually hear in that part of the song, but something that you could potentially sing along with. Anyway, so that's the solo. Right, so let's get to the get to the nice part, which was the backing vocals. So what happened is, obviously we get to the chorus, and I'm thinking, right, I've got my lead line here. It came quite quickly. It was one of those where, again, you've had kind of a syncopated melody for the verses that goes along with the bass. Now we've got to the chorus. Instead of going more crazy and more sporadic, what I'm going to do is go much simpler. Slow down the movement of the words, but make the words longer.
Love came, life changed. Now I'm not the lonely one. Love came, never the same. You know you're the only one. Love came, love came.
Yeah, and there's some ad-libby parts there with delays as well, which were obviously done later. So here.
Love came, life changed. You and me. Now I'm not the lonely. Got to be you and me.
Not sure what that note is. It's just, yeah, it's a, sorry, I was just quickly flicking on the guitar there to try and figure out what that was. It's a top A, the you and me.
You and me.
So it's just, getting up there, and it sounds quite nice. Right, so let's go through the backing vocals. One of the great things, once you get things set up in your Cubase or whatever DAW host you're using, is the ability, especially when you're sat on your own, to quickly layer up backing vocals and blocks of vocals. And this is not a particularly large block, but it sounds so massive. So let's just try it all out. Oh, actually, let's hear it. Let's hear it all together first. Excuse me. I don't know why they're not opening up with that group, but anyway. Okay, and then we'll mute off the actual those bits. Yeah, so.
Love came, life changed. Now I'm not the lonely one.
Right, so yeah, that's what I did first. It's just a basic thing. Sang along with the lead line and then built up the harmonies around the outside.
Love came, life changed. Now I'm not the lonely one. Love came, never the same.
And to be honest, going back at these now, I would definitely be looking at tidying those up a bit. You know, there's a lot of ers and breaths and all sorts of things that are in weird. Well, you can see them. Look.
Love came, life changed. Now I'm not the lonely one.
And it wouldn't be a big job at all to go. And it's something I would normally do. I can't believe really that I didn't do that here. I must have been on such a kind of creative flow, maybe. But it wouldn't be a big job, and it's something that I would do. So let's just quickly show you how I would do that. I've got a key command here set to put audio parts into a container, as we call it, as opposed to having the raw wave files just laid on the project. So I've put them into a block so that I can see them all together.
Love came.
And then let's make that a bit bigger. Oops. Yeah. And then shrink them down so I can see them all. And then we simply, there's loads of ways to do this. I've actually got an automated way to split things at silence. We press the J key, which will stop the scissors snapping. You know, you can see them snapping there. So we press J so they won't snap. And we're just going to basically cut randomly. Then okay, so then we'll just quickly go through each of those bits. I don't want to just delete this because there's other bits that come before it, even though they are actually probably just copied. So let's take that first bit and just tighten it up a little bit. And then here again, because these are backing vocals, you can be a little bit brutal with them, but ideally you would probably get the singer to do them right in the first place, because when the singer is you and you're producing yourself, you tend to be a bit lazy with that kind of thing. But that would be my rough procedure. Let's have a listen.
Love came.
Yeah, see, that's no good at all. That needs pulling back out, doesn't it? So
Love came.
And there's a couple of there's a couple of little artifacts at the end of there.
Love came.
And I don't like that. Even though you can barely hear it's there.
Love came. Life changed.
You can barely hear it's there when the track's playing.
Love came. Life changed.
So let's try this one. Now, unfortunately, because this is a live video, I can't just pause this and finish them off quickly.
Life changed. Now
But you get the idea. I'm not going to fiddle about with it now. We'll just we'll leave it at that. I think that's the D there at the end of changed. So I don't want to chop that out.
life changed. Now I'm.
Yeah. So that's that. And then of course the nice thing with this was when Soraya came to do her vocal, we also thought, oh, let's do some of the backing vocals with Soraya as well. So we did that, and here they are.
Love came, life changed.
Now these are already, because we did these in another project, they're already bounced, and there's basically two of each harmony.
Love came, life changed. Now I'm not the lonely one. Love came, never the same.
So yeah, they were done very quickly, but of course when you put it all together,
Love came, life came, love came, life changed. Now I'm not the lonely one.
So yes, definitely they need all of them need editing for sure. There's a lot of noise, breaths and clicks and pops and all sorts of things. So let's just have a quick look though before we finish off. Let's just have a quick look what I actually did for processing with those.
Love came, life changed. Now I'm not the lonely one.
So on the BBs, Essence once again for a little bit of de-essing. We've got a gate there, which probably again I could adjust. A little bit of tiny bit of delay, although it sounds a lot heavier than it actually is. And then I've got Soothe over the main vocals, and Soothe we were talking about the other day. Soothe just takes away some artifacts. It's kind of a super EQ, very processor intense, which is why I've got the offline the quality set to eco here, but when bouncing it will go into you know, a higher resolution. In fact, the processor seems to be managing all right at the moment, considering we've got OBS running in the background as well. But yeah, so okay, let's have a listen. What you can do with Soothe, I always find this quite handy, is you can actually press this delta button here, and what that does will get rid, it will show you what you're getting rid of. Let's put it that way. So here it is.
Love came,
Sorry, we need to, yeah, we need to hear only the BBs. There you go. So that's actually taking away quite a lot, and the more I move this depth button across, you'll hear that it's taking away more.
love came, never the same. You know you're the only one. Love came, life changed. Now I'm not the lonely one. Love came, never the same. You know you're the only one.
Yeah, one more time.
Game, never the same. You know you're the only one. Love came, life changed. Now I'm not the lonely one. Love came, never the same.
So basically getting rid, all that you're hearing now, that's going to be removed when I take this delta back out. And I find it really useful for a voice like mine, which is inherently quite mid-rangey and a little bit annoying, you know, but it's a relatively new tool, so I'm just kind of getting to grips with it. But let's hear what it's actually doing.
Love came, life changed. Now I'm not the lonely one.
It's a bit difficult to say with the streaming on. I'm sure the quality is not probably good enough to give that away. So there's the full BVs all together.
Love came, life changed.
And you can see the meters are going crazy here as well. Again, that's another sign of a rushed project. On the output at the moment, I've got two WM pluses, basically just reading levels and showing me that I'm a little bit over the top, to say the least. And then there was a GW Mixcentric, which just gives you an idea of what things are going to sound like when a little bit of mastering's done. And then another one, another WLM, just to make sure that we are in the right kind of loudness area at the end of the day. Now, although those backing vocals sound rough, they sound quite lush, but they also sound very rough. I know that.
Life changed. Now I'm not the lonely one.
However, this is because we're able to listen to things in a purely kind of digital world, isn't it? And I've just realised why those aren't opening up. They weren't actually in the folder, were they? Is that right? No, it's still not opening. That's very strange. Maybe they will now. No, they won't. Okay, not sure why that is. sure somebody else watching this will be able to tell me, but there's something not quite working right there. Yeah, so back in the day, you know, a tape machine, you wouldn't really have the ability to listen in this much detail, and you really wouldn't be bothered. And at the end of the day, let's hear it in the mix. It's funny actually, now that I've cleaned up those first little few bits of vocals, I can actually hear all the us and the, you know, the little plosive noises and things, and I'd never really noticed those before, because it was such a rush, I guess. And it's funny, this track is one where I've played it to people and yeah, that's a nice little melody, and then when the chorus comes in, people are always quite impressed with that big block of vocals. So now I know I need to just tidy that all up, but I'm not going to do that while you're watching. We've done enough. Just have another quick listen.
Love came, life changed. Now I'm not the lonely one. Love came, never the same. You're not.
Yeah, there's a love came. And then another, which isn't so bad because it's kind of in time, but then there's another one that's, it sounds like somebody's dropped a tray of biscuits in the studio.
Love came, never the same.
Yeah, that's pretty rough. So I'm going to go through and tidy those up now before I export it. So I think we'll leave it at that. Once again, the project is done in Cubase. I would probably never envisage using anything else. I tend to do my mastering in Wavelab. If I've missed anything, if there's any questions about this particular track or anything else that anyone has, please do let me know. I know we've not got any listeners at the moment as this is live, but oh, we have got one person apart from me. But obviously this will be up there for people to watch at a later date, and I'll be doing some more of these, maybe a little bit more short and simple over the next few weeks. So that'll do for now. I'm going to tidy these backing vocals up and export the track and get it up onto SoundCloud to replace the older mix. And if anybody wants to listen to the finished version, that will be on a link underneath this video. All right, so that's it for now. Thanks ever so much for listening, and hope to see you or listen to you or see your typing next time.